Hey everyone, thanks for tuning into my channel. Today we're going to talk about fly boxes. We're going to go through my gear bag, look at all the fly boxes that I've chosen and why, and then we're going to talk about probably one of the most important things you need to consider with fly boxes and after you're done fishing. So be sure to stick around for the entire video so you can see the number one thing that you need to consider with fly boxes after fly fishing. All right, let's head down to the dock. Hey, thanks for tuning in today. Today we're going to talk about fly boxes and all the different types of fly boxes not only do I have in my gear bag, but why you should consider each of those fly boxes for yourself. So let's dig in. There are a lot of different fly boxes out there, and I'm going to show you what I prefer in fly boxes and why. And I do have different fly boxes for dry flies and wet flies, and different boxes for streamers as well, because you want to take care of this investment. Whether you're tying your flies or buying your flies, it takes a ton of time and costs a lot of money to buy flies, so you want to make sure you're protecting your investment in these fly boxes. Let's take a look at this first fly box. This fly box is from one of my favorite fly shops in Spokane, the Silver Bow, and though it's not branded, there are a lot of these type of boxes out there, and what I mean by that is they're double-sided. You can see that there's a side here and a side here, in a very compact box. This particular box I use for my nymphs. This has a ton of storage, and you could put in a ton of different nymphs. And the nice thing about this box as well is it's waterproof. So if it falls out of your pack or falls into the river or lake, it's not going to get your flies completely soaking wet. In a lot of cases, I have these waterproof boxes just for that reason alone, because the inevitability of whether you're in a boat and the bottom fills with water, or you drop the box in the lake or river, your flies are going to get soaked. This helps keep them dry. So the next box I'm going to talk about is made from Morel. These are a large styrofoam box, and I chose this box, one, because it's lightweight. When you start getting too many of those waterproof Lexan type of boxes, they're pretty heavy. This is really lightweight. As you can notice, I use a Sharpie to put on the outside of what's in here. That just helps the search process a little bit quicker. But you can see they're very deep inside. These deep boxes allow for these dry flies, and I have a lot of hoppers and salmon flies and October caddis in here that I don't want to get squished by a smaller box. So when you have these larger patterns, it's very important to have a robust box that can handle the size of these flies without squashing the flies. You want these to remain as good looking as possible for when you go to fish. It just makes the presentation a lot better, and your flies look a lot healthier too in these type of boxes. So you have a similar box here, again, for larger dry patterns. All right, so the next box we're going to look at is my bugger box, and this is from Cliff's Bugger Barn. This is a great box for woolly buggers. As you can see here, I've got a jam-packed full of a whole bunch of different woolly buggers. And again, just like the dry fly fishing box, you want to have a box that's not going to squish all of your flies together, and also has enough room that you can separate the flies to see what you have in there. So when you're searching for that perfect fly for whatever it is you might be doing, whether it's casting out a rising fish or just swinging a fly in a river, you want to be able to quickly grab whatever fly you want to try next. And this box is perfect for that. Very large box. It's not waterproof, but it does have a ton of room for a lot of different flies. The next box we're going to look at is from one of my favorite fly shops, which is now sadly closed, the Morning Hatch. It was in Tacoma, Washington. This is a custom box. It's made out of wood. It's not really that practical, but it sure is beautiful. And when I bring this out, when I'm fishing with my buddies, people ask about this. But I happen to use this one for kind of my medium-sized dry flies, as you can see here. It is heavy. It does float, which is a good thing, but it's just a beautiful box, and it has sentimental value to me. And you're going to have some boxes that are like that may not be the most practical, but they hold sentimental value, and this is what this box is all about for me. So now here is another smaller box, two-sided, as we saw before, from Silver Bowl. And again, this is a waterproof box, smaller than the last box we looked at, and I use this box primarily for my chironomids and really small patterns. So you can kind of get the theme here. I have different boxes for different flies. I've got a box for my nymphs, I got a box for my big dry patterns, I have a box for my smaller dry patterns, I have a box for my woolly buggers, and I have a box for my chironomids. When you start to tie or collect a lot of flies, you too are going to have multiple boxes because you want to keep the categories separate so you know where to go for which fly, and you're not searching around forever to try to find a mixed bag of flies. So that is one thing you will want to do as you begin to build your inventory, is have multiple fly boxes that are dedicated to categories within fly fishing. Here's another box. This is made by Wwe Greg. I'm not even sure if they make boxes anymore. It's a pretty old box, but again, it's similar to my dry boxes to where it is made out of styrofoam, magnetic catches, and it is a kind of a deeper well box. And I use this particular box for all of my big nymph patterns, as you can see here. Let's see. What other boxes do I have? Here's another larger. Again, this is another size up from the first couple of boxes we showed you, the two-sided, waterproof. This particular box, again, is perfect for bigger, drier patterns. As you can see, it snaps shut. It keeps the patterns from getting squashed. I really like these waterproof boxes just because they happen to keep the flies dry in any situations where you're fishing in the rain or you're drop them in the water or whatever else, right? It keeps them dry, and I like that. Here's another setup that I use from Orvis. Now, I do untie the flies because you can have these set up for a season, but the monofilament will begin to break down if it's exposed to UV. So you want to have these tied up for either specific trips or for the season, and then take the flies off and untie them. But these are great for dropper setups. So whether it's a dry fly and a wet fly, a hopper dropper setup, or two nymphs, it's a great way to keep your hopper, dropper, or dropper setup organized and ready to go with these boxes that have these individual sections here that you just clip the fly on, wrap the line around. You can see how it would wrap around this particular piece, and it's just ready for you to go. So you're not having to spend time tying on that hopper dropper or nymph dropper when you're out there fishing. It's a great box to have in your arsenal. So this particular box is from CF Design. Now, some of you fly fishers that are having a harder time seeing the eye of the hook are going to appreciate this box. My dad actually gave me this box, and it really is a very cool box. What's great about this box is that these tiny flies can be put on these little adapters. And what we do with these little adapters is all you have to do is run your line through the opening in that wire and then pull the fly up and through that line. And now you're not spending 5 or 10 minutes trying to fish the 5X, or if you're fishing 6X, tip it into that tiny little eye of the fly, which I have done on many occasions. Having this type of setup really does help on the smaller flies that are just harder to hit the eye with the line. It makes it super quick and really easy to do. So you just put your leader right through the opening in that metal adapter there, and then pull the fly through, and it's completely ready to go and ready to be tied. So I got lots of other boxes. I got another clip box here, another waterproof box that has more of my swimming nymphs in it. Here's another type of box. Now, this is also waterproof. I do have this as kind of a separate bugger box. It's waterproof, it's deep, it's large, it's deeper so that these bigger flies don't get squashed together. This particular box is waterproof, which is nice, and it's kind of smaller. If I know I'm going after specific streamer patterns, I may not bring the big clip box. I may just throw this in my sling pack and fish this. So this is not a fly box. This holds my cigars and keeps them from being squished in my bag. I do recommend that if you partake in a cigar when you're fishing. So really, this is the diversity that I've chosen, and I've really hit most boxes that are out there. Now, there is something to consider. So one of the biggest mistakes a fly fisher will make is after they're fishing, they don't take care of their flies. If you put the flies away in really any of these boxes, especially the waterproof ones, wet, that's when rust starts to happen on the eye of the hook or the hook shank, and essentially ruins your fly. Once the eye has rust on it, it really is impossible to get cleaned off. As soon as you tie your monofilament or your fly line on there, just that little bit of abrasion will eventually wear through the line and it'll break off, God forbid, on a fish. So you want to make sure that after you're done fishing, just open up your fly boxes and leave them open for a couple of days in your, if you have your garage space or an extra room space, wherever it is you keep your fly gear. But you want to make sure that you dry your flies out thoroughly by just opening the boxes that you've used that day. Very important to do that so that you're not creating rust on your very expensive inventory of flies. So that's a tip that I learned the hard way by putting away flies wet early on, and lost a lot of flies doing that way. So I always make sure I dry out my flies after every fishing trip. Thank you again for taking the time to watch this video and for subscribing to my channel. I really do appreciate it. You can look forward to weekly videos to where I'll be posting about different flies, different casting techniques, gear you should have, and just really sharing my overall passion for the sport. All right, well, thanks again, and look forward to the next time. Fish on.